Your teen requested a ride, but this time not from you. It's through their Uber teen account. You drive your teenager around, a lot, to their friend Jacob's house, their other friend Jake's house, to James's, to Jaden's, to Jalen's, to...
Mom? This is Jake's house, not Jacob's.
Now with an Uber teen account, your teen can request a ride under your supervision. They'll ride with a highly rated driver, and with live trip tracking, you'll follow along the whole ride to their friends' houses that all sound the same. Add your teen to your Uber account today. See app for details.
Bye, Mom.
Greatness hurts. It's 10,000 hours of hard work, sweat, and setbacks. The aches, the stumbles, the falls. Tylenol provides pain relief for the champion in us all. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand of pain relief and fever reduction. This summer, when greatness hurts, Tylenol will be there with care to help you keep chasing it. That's Tylenol. That's care without limits. Visit Tylenol.com/greatness-hurts to learn more. Use as directed.
We want to win, a national championship. Well, everybody can sit here and say that in the middle of July, or we want to win a conference championship, whatever it may be. But understanding that to get there, you got a lot of things that have to go the right way. And a lot of that just goes down to doing the next right thing, the next thing, whatever's in front of you, attacking that and getting after it to stack good days on top of each other is what we constantly stress to our players.
Today's episode of the Coaching Coordinator Podcast is a conversation with Zach Reipma, the offensive coordinator at Alma College. We explore the strategic preparation for early season big games, and Coach Riepma shares his insights on managing shortened camp. He highlights the importance of keeping players grounded amid expectations and building a strong team culture and identity, while maintaining the fun you need to have while at practice. The stress of a big game can't get in the way of that. We discuss the balance between coaching and empowering players, roster management strategies, and the significance of a cohesive game plan.
Traveling to see your fave sports team is cool, but traveling with Amex Platinum for the big game is even better.
Right this way.
With access to dedicated card member entrances at select events, you can skip the line.
And one.
And with access to the Centurion Lounge,
He shoots a three.
you can catch the next game on the way home. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. Card member entrance access not limited to Amex Platinum Card.
On today's Coaching Coordinator Podcast, we focus on early season big games. And joining me to discuss that with a big game themselves right in week 1 is the offensive coordinator at Alma, Zach Reipma. Zach, great to have you here.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate you bringing me on. Excited to talk a little bit about the early season stuff here.
You guys have had an incredible run here at Alma and really turning the program around, coming into this with a 20-game regular season winning streak. Certainly, those kinds of things can cloud the thought process a little bit if you don't address them, especially when you're heading into a big game right in week 1, a nationally ranked opponent in River Falls who's doing an excellent job as well. And that's what we're going to dig into today. So just looking at that and thinking of, all right, we've got prep time before this. In your situation, it's a shortened camp time. As you and I were talking before, that seems to be a situation for a lot of small colleges and certainly the high school level here. That camp time frame now has been so decreased to what it used to be that you really have to be efficient with time. And for you guys, it's a big game early on, but also thinking about preparing that team for the long haul. And it's something you got to balance. So we'd love to hear you talk about, one, just the shortened time frame and the approach to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is it's not unique to us by any means, so not letting it be anything bigger than it is. We talked about it with our players a little bit too before they left. Like, this is the reality of the situation. We're going to get here August 14th. School's going to start about 10 days later. Other teams are going to report a day or two after we report, and it's just going to be a little bit different than what we've had the previous few years. So stressing to our guys, that's the reality of where we're at. And then just the element of there's going to be an urgency that maybe is a little bit different than even the normal camp for our veteran players. We like to coach with urgency. We play at a fast tempo, so there's some things that kind of go hand in hand with that. But just letting them know that, hey, we don't have the luxury to take our time getting things rolling. We got to come in with the right mentality. And yeah, there's going to be mistakes and we're going to teach it and coach it and correct it and all those things, but just making sure that our mindset is in the right spot. That, again, we don't have the luxury to, hey, we had a bad practice. We don't have time to do that because we're limited with our time a little bit. And as much on the field as some of just off the field stuff too, just being able to spend time with the guys, meetings, and just that downtime of hanging out that so much camaraderie can develop from, is making sure we're intentional about downtime we do have. And when we get our younger guys here, welcoming them with open arms and loving them and knowing that it's going to be a little bit chaotic, but there's some really good players we're excited about coming in too. So making sure they feel at home as well.
So the biggest thing that falls on your shoulders as coaches here initially, and I think anybody going into a big game early in the season, is the sense of urgency. So how do you go about that? I mean, because it is a balance, right? You don't want to put so much focus on the sense of urgency that this game becomes bigger than it is, right? So you guys have to find that perfect balance of that. And as you said, I mean, I think it's true at any time. We can't waste practices, but we certainly can't waste a practice going into a big game.
Yep, for sure. I think, again, it's a balance. I think for us, it's exciting to play in a big game early. We haven't had that the way our schedule's been the last couple of years. Big chunk of it, we weren't deserving to play in big games until the last couple of years. We had to earn our stripes a little bit. So having that's exciting for our guys. So I think that'll lead to some energy, just natural energy that you get. There's always that first day of camp's always everybody's hair's on fire. It's that fourth, fifth, sixth day that you really kind of, I think, see what type of mentality you got to have as a team. And so I'm hoping that this big game will give a little bit more external motivation. But again, it's a long season. River Falls is going to be a great opponent. We had a really tough one in week 2 against Denison, and we're going to go play a D2 team in Northern Michigan in week 3. So not letting week 1 be the Super Bowl and then thinking, all right, we've achieved what we wanted to. There's a lot of football to be played, and it can be a great learning experience in week 1. And that's what we want to view it as. Obviously, yeah, we want to go out and win and get off to a great start, but regardless of the outcome, there's still 9 more guaranteed games that we have, and we got to make sure we learn from the first one to put our best foot forward in week 2 and so on and so forth, and continue to just be a one game at a time process oriented program. I think that's really helped some of our success. Is that piece is not allowing our guys to overlook opponents or not allow our guys to get caught up in, yeah, we want to win, a national championship. Well, everybody can sit here and say that in the middle of July, or we want to win a conference championship, whatever it may be. But understanding that to get there, you got a lot of things that have to go the right way. And a lot of that just goes down to doing the next right thing, the next thing, whatever's in front of you, attacking that and getting after it to stack good days on top of each other is what we constantly stress to our players. So that's something that we'll definitely have to make sure we don't lose sight of, regardless of what happens September 7th when we play those guys.
Yeah, it's definitely about stacking good days. And the thing with camp, I think we've all been there, especially after you get through that first week and you'll have school and some other things, other teams on campus, all those things coming along that will affect things too. But you might hit those, man, you go out there, maybe the energy isn't what it's needed to be today, or the focus or whatever. And you said we can't waste practices. And I think it's our job as coaches to figure out, like, this isn't exactly where it needs to be for us to get all we can out of this day. What kinds of things do you do, and what are you looking for to make sure that, hey, we're not wasting this time? Like, maybe this start to the practice isn't what we wanted, but here's how we're going to get it back on track.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a delicate balance for that. Obviously, as coaches, ultimately, it is up to us. But when do you let it be player-led? When is it us? I think we've been fortunate. We've had a lot of staff camaraderie, essentially the same staff intact from last year to this year. And even going back 2 years, we've had minimal turnover. So I think that is a luxury for us as coaches to have, to know how we can kind of play off of each other in terms of maybe a good cop, bad cop scenario or something along that, in terms of getting the guys going, or just that, all right, we've had lulls before, like, we're going to be all right here. Our guys will get it going. And I don't know that there's a perfect answer for it in terms of when do you step in as a coach and when do you let your players handle it. I'd like to err on letting our players take the reins, but as they would say, I'm probably considered a control freak on the field and like to run around a little bit. So sometimes I might not be quite as patient to positively encourage them to get it going. But I think it's a fine line, again, of challenging them when you need to and not letting it be just a yell for the sake of yelling. I think have a purpose to it. I think our guys respond well to more of just a challenge than a total ass ripping, for lack of a better word, just giving them the opportunity to refocus and get after it and that stuff. We've done that before, just after a period, bringing them in and, hey, this isn't it, guys. Like, we got 10 minutes of indie here before the next team. Like, you got a little bit of a check here, get yourself right. Like, that period's over. It's not where we need to be at, but we can't sit here and let one bad team period turn into two bad team periods to then turn into a bad practice, so to speak. So being able to, I guess, hit pause and refocus it is something that we've done here and do here. I think something that I've definitely had to learn as I've coached more and more to not let it spiral. And I think we've been fortunate too to have players in leadership roles that respond to those and get it right and bounce back, so to speak.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that it is about hitting pause and then it's getting the appropriate response to that so that the results are what you want. And looking at, again, that sense of urgency, balancing that, the focus on, hey, we're playing in a nationally ranked team. We've got this win streak. We want to win a national championship. All those things that kind of build up. I think one thing that balances that is making sure that this is still fun, because that sense of urgency can really quickly turn into a grind and pressure.
Yep.
Keeping it fun, keeping it loose along the way like you normally would is a part of it. How do you approach that? How do you make sure that, hey, we're going out here, we're getting our work, we have a sense of urgency, but we're still enjoying this process and we're having fun?
Yeah, I think it's kind of twofold. One, our head coach, Coach Couch, does an unbelievable job at reminding us to do that. He'll always build in, hey, make sure we're having fun. We'll script it into practice if we need to. The always big man punt return contest is always a fan favorite. Big man one-on-ones is another one that we'll sometimes end a practice with, or heck, we've done it in the middle of a practice before just to keep the guys in the right mindset. And then I think the other side of it too is just within kind of some of just the day-to-day stuff is, you said it, just making sure you're having fun. I think individual is a time where it can be a little bit, I don't want to say loose in the sense of not getting work done, but you're one-on-one with your guys, so to speak, your position group, and can have a little bit more of some fluid conversations maybe as you're doing the drill work, and then ratcheting it up for some of the team stuff, and then being able to talk through the team period and still have fun with it. You know, I think that's something I'm fortunate coaching the quarterbacks with special teams and just the nature of our practices. We get a good amount of indie, so we'll script in some times where it's a 5-minute recap period, which usually takes about 2 minutes, and then it's 3 minutes of just hanging out and laughing and getting ready for the next team period in terms of that, to try and keep it balanced a little bit for the guys and making sure that it doesn't become a grind. Because like you said, urgency can turn into grind pretty quick. And that's something that, like I said, we're pretty conscious of it. Our head coach is phenomenal at it, and that is a good job of reminding me to do that too. Because I know I definitely lean the other way of, yes, we have fun, but it's really fun to win football games, and to win football games takes a certain approach and practice and things like that. So it's something that I'm continuing to get better at, and know that it's great to have a head man that puts an emphasis on it, because that is, I mean, it's still a game. It's the best game in the world, but fun is a huge part of it. I mean, playing it because you love it and all that is a huge part of it, and to lose sight of that is a disservice to your players, in my opinion.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.
So what's it like to buy your first cryptocurrency on Kraken? Well, let's say I'm at a food truck I've never tried before. Am I going to go all in on the loaded taco? No, sir. I'm keeping it simple, starting small. That's trading on Kraken. Pick from over 190 assets and start with the $10 in your pocket. Easy. Go to kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Interactive Inc., PWI, DBA Kraken. View PWI's disclosures at kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
Yeah, early season, we're still developing our depth. We're looking at how do we develop that next man up. Again, thinking of being process oriented and not abandoning that part of the approach either, just because we've got a big meaningful game right off the bat. How do you navigate that too and make sure that we know, hey, there's 9 more weeks plus beyond this game. We need other guys ready to play. How do you approach that? How are you looking at, like, especially in terms of, I mean, how many guys might make it into the game as compared to maybe if it wasn't this huge game right off the bat?
Yeah, I think we've been fortunate. We're able to 2-spot during our teams. We have the depth to do that and the resources. So that's really helpful just from a sheer reps standpoint, where guys are getting, we have 44 guys on the field essentially during a team period, 22 on each end, O versus D, give or take, obviously, as the situational and stuff. So that's helpful just in terms of sheer reps and being able to film it and then coach off of it. And then the other thing that we've switched to a little bit, really last year we kind of implemented it, and I stole it a lot from our defensive coordinator, Coach Ettinger, and also heard Coach Bielema at Illinois speak on this. We do a specific freshman or newcomer walkthroughs. When we do some of our walkthroughs during camp, we'll send the vets to one side and they're doing a little bit more things. Maybe it's getting into game plan stuff, obviously not first couple days, but a little bit more things that they're familiar with. And then our newcomers are doing our day one type of install stuff. And as camp progresses, I'll make essentially 2 different menus that they have access to, just put it on a Google Doc, and we'll have our veterans menu that, again, has a little bit more stuff. And then our newcomers menu is more the nuts and bolts foundation stuff so that they can get that digested and second nature as best as possible, so that when we do get into the game plan specifics and stuff, that it's not quite as many moving parts, hopefully, for some of our young guys if they need to be. I mean, as coach, like the whole game plan specific stuff, it's the worst and the best thing all at the same time when you're teaching kids. That we wouldn't, what do I do in this look against this? Well, if they're running this, we're not carrying that, so to speak. But being able to at least give them the base to have and then teach them some of the concept stuff as we go, I think has really helped us in terms of that. And then just, again, the reps piece too. I can't overstate that we're fortunate to be able to do that just to get kids doing it too.
From a game plan perspective, again, it's early season. A lot of us are trying to establish that identity, that base. Certainly there could be the urge to scheme a little bit to make sure, like, hey, this is a big game. We got to do some things maybe different to beat them. You got to fight that urge as well. What's your approach to how you look at what we carry into this? Again, knowing that we're coming out of camp into a big game. This is different than if this big game was 5, 6, 8 weeks down the road.
Yeah. I think something that's been really good for us is since we switched to some of this up-tempo stuff 2 years ago, it has forced me to be simpler, us to be simpler as a staff, 1, in how we teach things, and 2, in what we carry, just because we're going to do it at a pretty fast rate. And so to have 9 different tags in our nomenclature just isn't going to get it done. And if we can't explain it to a kid in 2 to 3 or less coaching points, then it's too complicated and he's not going to be able to play fast. So I think our philosophy with the tempo has helped us keep it simple. And then in terms of just some of the specifics to game planning, we're pretty fortunate to have some pretty talented players, and to not get overcomplicated is what's that fine line. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to do what we do, so to speak, and we'll have our adjustments, but I don't think we do anything that's incredibly out there. If you scout us, you kind of have an idea of what's coming. We're going to go pretty fast. We're going to have wide splits. We're going to throw the ball deep a couple times, and we're going to run a lot of RPOs. So having an identity has helped us, and then just figuring out kind of what fits and what is this team good at, right? What we were good at last year is it's an entirely different team, even though we do have a lot of guys back. Like, still, all right, what are we going to be good at in the fall of 24, and how do we incorporate that into our philosophy and our core stuff at what we do, and not getting too enamored with the whiteboard. I'm yet to draw up a bad play on the whiteboard. It's just getting it to work on game days that seems to be the issue sometimes. So that's helped us. And like I said too a little earlier, our staff continuity has been great. So I think that helps us just as we game plan, keeping us all in line, making sure we're not getting too creative or too carried away with, do we need this? Yeah, it's a great play. Do we need this? How's it going to help us win? And being willing to say, yeah, we don't need that. That's a great play. We don't need that. It doesn't fit what we do. Or, hey, this week, keep it in the hopper. That's something as we get going in the week. We have a Google Doc that's literally the hopper, and guys will dump Twitter stuff on there or ideas or stuff literally that has been on the board. We'll have pictures of the whiteboard draw up stuff that, hey, not this week, and we'll put it back there so we circle back to it. But again, kind of a long-winded answer, but I think that balance is important. And I think, too, just from a pure coordinator standpoint, being willing and comfortable and confident enough to say, hey, guys, that's a great idea, but it's not the right idea this week. Or, hey, I'm not going to call that. Not that it's not a good play. I just don't feel confident in it, or I don't see us getting enough reps at that to where I'm going to feel confident to pull the trigger on game day with it, and knowing that, hey, that's not a bad thing. You know, I tell our young coaches, keep firing them at me. Like, I love the ideas. Let's collaborate and come up with a good one, but just know that sometimes I'm going to say no, and it's just simply it's a me problem. It's not you, it's me, so to speak. So
yeah, absolutely.
In terms of that.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I would say it to young coaches all the time too, because I want them to feel empowered to share their ideas. But ultimately, if we pull the trigger on something too soon and say, okay, yeah, that was a great idea, let's throw it in. I mean, if it is not in my thought process, if it is, I'm not comfortable with it as the play caller, it's just not going to get called. And then those reps that week get wasted. So it is finding that balance of when is the right time and how do we develop that? How do we fit into what we're doing? How do we develop that so that when it's the right time to call it, I'm ready too as a play caller?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, I think there's just kind of a gut feel thing, which I know isn't the greatest answer, but just hearing a couple coordinators over the offseason listen to that, I think all the analytics and stuff is awesome in football. I don't know that I'm smart enough to be able to do all that stuff on the fly. So I do think sometimes, to your point, it's just, what do I feel good about right now, and let it rip. And whatever the play isn't in my mind in this controlled office setting where I feel good about it, I'm not going to feel good about it when the bullets are flying too. So I think, too, just continuing to have, and I think, too, the open conversations within your staff is really important for that, too, that it's not a ego thing. You know, it's not I'm smarter than you, or it's a bad idea, I don't like your stuff. I'm the one that's got to call the play, so to speak. And I tell our young guys a lot, too, hey, if on 3rd and 4 it doesn't work, Coach Couch isn't going to go ask you why we called that play. He's going to come and ask me. And that's just part of being the coordinator and how it works. And so I got to have a reason and feel good enough to be able to rationalize why we went with said call and said situation.
Definitely. Well, to wrap things up and thinking of, again, of that big game early on, and you guys really, you have 3 of them because it's River Falls. You got a traditionally very good Denison program. You don't want that one to get lost between, hey, we got, nationally ranked, and then we got a D2, which all the D3 guys get juiced about playing a scholarship team. Denison right in there is a tough one too. But this team, though your program has played in big games, and some of these guys have played in big games, this team together, this collective unit, has not played in that big game together. What's your approach in just what you're going to message to them, but also these are the really guys, these are the things we're focusing on here going into week 1 and carrying that through the first 3 big games of the season here? Yeah,
I think kind of the answer almost is kind of in that question, and we've even alluded to it in the spring. Like, this is team 131, it's our 131st year of football, and that's something that I love that we're able to do, and kind of each team has its own theme, its own emphasis, and really diving into that. So just reiterating some of that stuff this team needs in terms of some of those cultural things and developing some of those things. And then I think the other part too is being able to draw on some of the experiences, but not maybe dwell on the experiences. Again, we've had a lot of success the last 2 years. It's been a heck of a lot of fun, played in some big playoff games and won some championships and things like that. And that's important, but it doesn't get us any points on the scoreboard in the first 3 weeks. So drawing from those, but not maybe dwelling on them to where we think it's going to get us anything. We still have to go out and prove who this team is. Something Coach Couch has said, especially within our offensive room, just with him being on the running backs, coaching the running backs, is we have a talented team just on paper coming back. There's no way to sugarcoat that. You just look at some of the productions that's coming back. We have some good players coming back. Are we going to be a talented and team or a talented but team? And talented but we didn't do what we were capable of with our ability? Or are we talented and we did the things we needed to do to maximize our ability? You know, are we investing in the process? Are we taking each day at a time, stacking good days on top of each other, doing what we need to do to get better each day, to put our best product on the field on Saturday, and then learn from it, evaluate, and start stacking more on top of each other for week 2, and so on and so forth, and just keep playing one game at a time, and then on Saturday finding a way to do whatever it takes to get it done.
Zach, I appreciate you spending the time with us here and sharing some ideas about how to approach the big games here early on, and best of luck to you and the Scots here in 2024.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're excited and looking forward to it being football season. So appreciate everything.
Here are winningest takeaways from our conversation with Coach Riepma. 1, have a process-oriented mindset. You want to focus on the process at all times rather than the outcome, and even when you get into those big games. Coach Riepma emphasized the idea of stacking good days on top of each other, meaning that consistent daily progress leads to the long-term success. The goal is to improve step by step and not get caught up in the ultimate objectives of winning a conference championship or a state championship or at the college level a national championship, but staying focused on the process and getting better every single week. And that includes the big game week. It's always easy to get distracted by that. You have to stay process-oriented. And the other great takeaway from this one is balance fun with hard work. Yeah, we always have to have that sense of urgency. There's always that test at the end of the week, but I think it's equally important to keep football fun. If the game becomes too much of a grind, it can wear down your players and your coaches and yourself mentally and physically. So remember to always be injecting fun into practice. Make things competitive, have contests, whatever it might be. I saw a great one here in Avon, Ohio. They have Coaches Challenge at the end of every practice where a coach and a player, not the kicker, kick field goals to see who wins that challenge. Again, something small but fun to keep that part of it intact throughout the season. Thank you again for supporting the Coach and Coordinator podcast. As you know, we want to support coaches at all levels by providing insight into the mindset and the skill set of the best coaches. We also want to share the best tools and technology that they use, and you can find those in our 10% toolkit. The link is in the show notes. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.